All right, 3, 2, 1. Yo, what's going on? Arkansas Razorback fans, SEC fans everywhere, welcome to the Pig Trail Network YouTube channel. I hope you guys had a great week. It is, it's soaking wet in northwest Arkansas. Bummer. I mean, that's been the weather this week. Actually, for like the last several weeks, and it's kind of a bummer, you know. I guess it just kind of is what it is. Can't control the weather. Luckily, it didn't rain out the Razorback baseball game yesterday. Hopefully, that's not the case, as first pitch is in under an hour. We're going to try. I know I say this every single show. I'm going to try my best to keep this thing somewhere around half an hour, maybe under, maybe a little over, but somewhere in there. It's sunny and 85 in northeast Arkansas, says Kelly Marie. Kelly, you just got to rub our noses in it, don't you? It must be nice, because it's like instant. It feels like we're living in Seattle. I mean, for crying out loud, you walk outside and it's just gloomy. Next thing you know, you're going to see a bunch of like punk rockers with their Nirvana and their Ramones T-shirts walking around outside. Like, it's just everyone's so depressed with this kind of weather. But that's what sports are for, right? Kind of take our minds off of what's going on in the real world. It's great. It's great escapism. So that's what we're trying to do here. I'm going to do the best I can. There's not a ton of news out there outside of Arkansas beating Florida. And oh yeah, do you see that? Do you see that beautiful red chrome helmet I have back there? Shout out. I'm just going to call him Arizona Tim. He always says, Ty, it's Tim from Arizona when he comes in through chat. Even when he emailed me, he's like, Ty, it's Tim from Arizona. He's just known as Arizona Tim. That is from him. That is a gift to the show from Tim. Dude, that is amazing. It seems like people with the name Tim are just good people. I don't know that I've ever known a guy named Tim that I didn't like. They all seem to be pretty cool. Pretty cool guys. Just like Kelly. I've never known a Kelly I didn't like. And I've met Kelly in person. Saw her at the spring scrimmage. All right. Hey, I got my first notification enabled. Is that what you're trying to say? I'm sorry, Razorback Rick. So you're in Australia. Oh, that's awesome. I noticed, you can look up YouTube analytics and it'll tell you like where people are watching you from. And you have military people in here. By the way, special shout out to the folks, to the fine ladies and gentlemen and men and women. I don't know why I said ladies and gentlemen. That's too formal. To the young men and women who serve in the military. I know they're watching my content, and I have had them reach out to me and be like, Ty, you are, like, I prefer to watch you than anything else as far as Razorback content's concerned. And, man, I dig that. That is awesome. I'm glad that I can provide that kind of content for you guys to kind of get your mind off what's going on. Not that people in the military are, like, not digging that lifestyle, am I right? Hot and sunny in East Arkansas. You guys just want to rub our noses in it. My favorite weather is, like, you guys know I like cold weather. My wife hates it. We battle over the thermostat constantly. But when I used to work outside, I used to cut trees down. I used to work for a company called West Tree Service. I think they're still around. They're actually based out of Little Rock, but they had a branch here in Fayetteville. My favorite weather to work in was when it was like cloudy and like you had that not cold, but cool mist just smack in the face. And it's like you feel the breeze. It just kind of consumes you. It takes over your whole body. You got to love it, man. That was my favorite weather. Of course, that's when you're working, right? When you're outside working, you don't want to get overheated. Heading to the baseball game right now, Woo Pig. Hopefully the rain holds off. Yeah, so looking at the forecast, look, I pulled up my phone. I pulled up the weather, and Kurt Cobain popped up on my screen here. No. That was my generation of music. I love Nirvana. Yeah, 7 p.m. It's not raining right now, and then 7 p.m. 60%, 8 p.m. 60%, all the way until 9, and then it's supposed to die off at 10. I don't know. I think they end up playing. All apology. No. Humid down here in Crossett. Oh, okay. I'm not a fan of humidity. Rocket reminds me of a bigger Dennis Johnson. Dude will be a stud. You know who he kind of reminds me of, honestly? You guys remember Darius Howard? I think he was highly recruited. I want to say he was 4-star way back in like 03, 04. I think he's my age now. I think he's like late 30s. I'm pretty sure he was like 04, 03. Because he came in right before, like a couple of years before Darren McFadden. I want to say a year before Peyton Hillis. Everyone thought that dude was going to be a monster, just a beast. That's who he kind of reminds me of, with a little bit more, like, I think he's got a little bit faster first step than Howard. And I think Howard, too, ran into a lot of injury issues. And, of course, it doesn't help when you have the greatest Razorback running back of all time come in as a true freshman and take your spot from you. But he was battling. He was going to have to battle with Felix, Peyton Hillis anyways. So, but that's who he kind of reminds me of. I get the comparisons to Dennis Johnson because he was like a bowling ball, but Dennis was more of a bounce-around pinball. Whereas I think Raheim is more of a guy that's going to be able to hopefully gain some more. I'd like to see a little bit more power behind him. Right. We'll talk about those two real quick. Last night, I don't know if you guys caught this. The attendance. Think about this: wet, rainy, crappy weather. The last what seems like forever in Fayetteville, and they still had almost 11,100 people show up to Baum Stadium, including our man Tim, Arizona Tim, who was there, who's in town watching the games. I think he's on his way there now, as a matter of fact, at Baum Stadium. God, it just looks so beautiful back there. The goal is, by the way, to get that whole lower shelf, and then that top shelf is going to be full of big replica helmets. That's the goal. It's going to take me a while, but I'm excited. So again, Tim, man, I'm telling you guys, it means a lot to me. This is not the first time a fan has done something for me or the show. Obviously, Patreon supporters go above and beyond. Those of you who go through and do stuff like with Super Chat, that's what's going to be financing the helmets, is the along with the software stuff that I want to do, that I'm getting ready for in July. Going to have to pay a graphic designer. That's going to get expensive. So all the money that I do get from Patreon, PayPal, I shouldn't say all, almost all of it goes to merch. It's going to go to merch, and it's going to go towards, computer, hardware, software updates, things like that. And like I said, I'm going to have to hire a graphic designer. Going to do that here really soon. I'm already talking to him. Damon, my boy Damon. But anyways, I was impressed. I didn't think with the weather and, with it being a Thursday night game, I didn't think they would crack 11,000. I thought, well, yeah, it's going to be the first full capacity game. They'll get 10,000. But then when I saw they were almost at 11,100, imagine tomorrow. I think tomorrow it's supposed to be way better weather. Well, you're going to have overcast, but it's going to be mid-70s, low to mid-70s. I don't think there's any it doesn't look like there's any rain in the forecast for tomorrow. As I scroll, I say that. In the morning, I guess there's a slight chance. But after that, nothing. But you know how this goes. Weather in Northwest Arkansas, you don't like it, just stand around a little while. Or you think you know what's going to happen tomorrow, it completely changes on you. Right? You get something entirely different. Surprised by that. I shouldn't say surprised. Nothing surprises me at Baum Stadium, but it was good to see that they cracked 11,000. Obviously, I think they do that again tonight, and then tomorrow, if they don't move this thing back, we'll see what they do with attendance tonight, or what happens with the attendance tonight, and then tomorrow, could you imagine if it was just like gorgeous, like 70 degrees? Well, my preferred, I won't tell you my preferred, because some of you are going to be like, no, can't do that. But 70 degrees, partly cloudy, but mostly just sunny skies. Could you imagine what Baum? I think they might break records because people are so stoked to, take off the mask and actually get to go and be in person in these games. So I think Saturday they could, maybe not break records, but I think there are a lot of people. I definitely think they would have more than what they had Thursday night, maybe even more than what they had tonight. But I like keeping up with the attendance records, or the attendance of these games, especially coming out of COVID and with them opening things up. I'm curious as to see what they can do. And we know Hog fans, Razorback baseball fans are diehard. The actual Razorback baseball fans, Kelly Marie is a diehard. I mean, we all know that. Kelly is I think she's she's on top of her game when it comes to Razorback baseball. Also, that chrome helmet may not have happened without Kelly Marie. It was her who pointed that out in chat the last time we were here. So, all right. I don't think Woods will stand out much at Oklahoma. Too much talent at the wide receiver position, says Mr. Woods. I wonder what the head count was at the softball game today. I didn't watch, only got to listen. I heard someone had said there wasn't a whole. It sounded like there were a lot of people there, but not like 100% capacity or whatever. Like it didn't sound like it was completely filled. All right, so moving on. 247 Sports had an article up. I think this was it yesterday? This came out, or was it today? Someone sent me this and was like, you got to talk about this. Raheim Sanders and Ketron Jackson, both these guys highly rated 4 stars. We know Texas made this huge push on Ketron Jackson there towards the end. I was so back and forth on Ketron. I knew he was going to be a hog in the, like at the beginning, right? And even with some of the changes. But then Texas makes this push. And I'm concerned. Like, all right, Ketron, this is, I don't know. They're really liking this kid. They're all over him. They did not back down. And he still ends up signing with the Hogs. This is what 247 had to say about Ketron. Now, this is their the 100 true freshmen who will impact the 2021 college football season. They have Raheim Sanders. I want to see more of Raheim. I want to see more of both of them. And these guys are true freshmen. And I would have said, had Mike Woods not transferred out, I don't think he makes this list. I think because Woods is transferred out, it's why he's on this list. I think 247, the staff, I don't actually know who wrote this, but someone at 247, I'm unable to actually look as I'm just looking at well, never mind. I thought it had. They're smart. They know, all right, Mike Woods is out, and that's going to open up the opportunity for Ketron Jackson, again, a big-time true freshman. I mean, you're talking about a kid with a large, or not a large frame, but a tall, long frame, right? I mean, he's, 6'3", somewhere in the neighborhood of 6'3", 6'3 and a half. You know, pretty good weight on him. I don't think he's going to be like a Traylon Burks FON freak of nature, but has, from what I understand, what I've read about him, what I've seen, and just kind of, just what's out there, he's got a really good catch radius, meaning he can catch the ball just wherever you throw it. Pretty decent-sized hands. You expect that. Someone north of like 6 foot, 6'1", to have pretty good-sized hands. He's north of 6'2", 6'3". Not that you can't be tall and have small hands, but from what I understand, this kid's just he passes the eye test from people who have seen him play in person and who saw him play down in Texas. And I got to agree that I think eventually down the road he could turn in and develop into a similar role that's being asked of Traylon Burks in this offense, assuming Kendall Briles doesn't leave. And we see how Kendall likes to use Traylon Burks. He's a Swiss Army knife. You can do kind of whatever you want with him. You can run the ball out of the backfield with him off an end around. You could throw. He runs. I don't know that there's a route that he can't run. He can run the underneath. He could line up in the slot. He can line up outside, boundary, flank, whatever. He could do it. He's just a Swiss Army knife. And on top of that, you can line him up in the backfield and have him carry the ball like a running back if they really wanted him to. I mean, he is difficult to bring down because of his size and physicality. I could see Ketron Jackson stepping into that role simply because of his athleticism and his size. And I think skill-wise, I don't know that he's that far behind. Well, okay, Traylon Burks is an all-American caliber receiver. It's not fair to say that he's in that neighborhood, but I think he's driving up to that neighborhood in terms of just what he can do in his raw athleticism. We'll see if he gets it, if that part of his game, if he has that, if he carries what he did from high school and all the hype and the excitement and what he was able to do out of high school, we'll see if that translates onto the field in 2021. I have a hard time seeing him doing that, but that doesn't mean he can't contribute as a true freshman in one fashion or another. Could you imagine him and Knox and Burks on the field at the same time, and hopefully Devion Warren, you can line up in the slot with his speed. Hopefully he's somewhere near where he was at before he got injured. You've got trouble, and you've got a lot of size outside of Warren. You've got some pretty good size out on the field, and that's what I liked about Woods too. Woods was a good slot receiver who had pretty good size on him as well, and surprising long field speed. Like he had that ability to create separation downfield and do things that I don't know that outside of Burks, anyone else on this roster was capable of doing, and that's what made that's what stretched the field out, because you had two receivers like Burks and Woods who could stretch the field. Maybe he takes over that role. Maybe he can or find himself in that role as a true freshman, as someone who's going to be asked to step into that role. Like, hey, look, we're going to have you. You're going to do something similar to what we wanted out of Woods. Because right now there's all kinds of, Crawford, Knox, who steps into Mike Woods' role and who takes that, his contribution as to what he did a year ago, Mike Woods, what he was able to do on the field. Who's going to be that next number 2 guy who's going to stand opposite of Treylon Burks and who's going to help take the heat off of him and vice versa. So maybe it's Ketron. I have a hard time seeing that. But again, that doesn't mean he can't make some form of an impact on the field as a true freshman. I could see him being in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 catches, 20 to 35 catches, 200-300 yards receiving, maybe a couple of scores. I could see that. There's a lot we don't know. We know that he was seen at the spring camp, and I was there with my good pal Alex, and of course I got to meet Kelly and her husband Lance at the game. They saw it. Ketron Jackson's out there with a brace on his knee, right? He had to have surgery in the offseason, but we didn't really see Ketron do much in spring camp. So, again, that doesn't mean he can't show up to summer voluntary workouts and fall camp and just ball out and clearly take the spot or clearly be someone who's going to be in rotation for the 2 spot or whatever to make his way onto the field. I think he'll see the field. And again, I could see him being north of 20 catches. I could see him being in that area. And if he is, you'd have the question then is, what's really going on around the receiver spot? What's up with Crawford? What's up with Knox? Or do we just have 3 receivers? Is this going to be Bobby Petrino era where you've got 3 receivers north of 30, 35 catches, several hundred yards receiving, and several touchdowns? That could be the case, because you guys know how I feel about the receivers. Like, the future is bright. Mike Woods leaving this year does have an impact. There's no doubt. I think you're going to feel that to some capacity. How much of it, though, in 2020 was Mike Woods benefiting from being on the field in Kendall Briles' system, playing opposite to Treylon Burks, or was it the other way around? Did the system benefit from having Mike Woods? We're going to find out. We're going to find out in 2021 or when the season kicks off. We're going to know a lot more about what's going on, especially, week 2 when you're playing a really difficult opponent, week 2. Someone who, a team that has talent from head to toe with a year 1 coach. So I like the article. Let me read Joe with the $4.99 super chat, $5 super chat. Let me read this. I went to the game. Oh, you went to the baseball game, and the guy beside me had 8 Michelob Ultras and 2 giant beef nachos. That sounds like me. Oh, yes. I love it, Joe. I love it. Stanford is getting stomped by South Dakota in the Fayetteville Regional. Just 3-run bomb, 7-1. What's up, Tyler Edmonson? How you doing? Sup, Ty? I know we are talking football, but man, Cops is just crazy. Do you think maybe one of the Arkansas pitching goats, one of the all-time goats? I'm not someone you're going to ask about that. I don't know. As I've kind of with Razorback baseball, but I know a little bit about the history, not a ton. I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest. When you look at what he's accomplished in the regular season, I don't know. It's absolutely crazy. Tim B, shout out from the hog pen. What's up, Tim? Helmet looks awesome, doesn't it, though? Doesn't it, Tim? Shout out, man. I appreciate that. I do. It looks so good back there. And I'd contemplated, showing it off here so you guys, for those of you who haven't seen the chrome helmet in that fashion, but then I was like, yeah, but you know what? This is like a test drive. because I'm not sure. I'm not settled on where I'm going to keep it. If I'm going to keep it just there, or if I'm going to move it up, or if I'm maybe just going to have it by itself. So this is a test run, but it does look so good. There's no doubt about that. Shout out to Tim B. I say don't let the door hit you where the good Lord spits you, Mike Woods. Where the good Lord split you. You're missing an L, and I read it. So we're both at fault. So let's read real quick before because again, we're going to try and, what are we at here? How long have we been live? 25 minutes. Okay. So we're going to try and get this thing. All right, let's read this. Ketron Jackson. This is what 247 had to say about him. Jackson ranked as a top overall signee in the 2021 class. And the expectation is he'll be in the 2 deep immediately. And I think that's true. I think he'll be in the 2 deep. The question is, we saw kind of a swinging door. You had Burks, who was clearly your wide receiver number 1, or one of your 2 starting receivers on the field. But then it was like Mike Woods. If Burks had kind of an off game, or if he was dinged up or needed a rest, Mike Woods stepped up, right? Then it was Devion Warren before he had his injury. But you didn't really see any of the second string, the 2 deep guys make a profound impact or get a ton of time on the field unless they were being asked to block downfield or whatever. You didn't see a lot of different personnel on the field at the receiver spots. Now maybe I'm wrong. I just don't. It seemed like it was always Burks, Devion Warren, Mike Woods. You saw Knox on the field a little bit, but he wasn't doing much. And then, of course, you had Blake Kern and Hudson Henry at tight end. But that's the question. How much are we going to see Ketron Jackson? Can he crack? We know he's in the 2 deep. Will probably be the 2 deep, but how much will he actually be on the field, and can he make an impact? His chances of early playing time only improved during spring ball, where he flash polish and playmaking abilities despite recovering from a knee injury. It also helps Jackson that wide receiver Mike Woods opted to transfer to Oklahoma. Jackson is a big receiver with the ability to win jump balls. I agree with that, and to make some highlight reel catches. He's going to be difficult to keep off the field year 1 in a pass-happy offense. Now, obviously, I read this before we started talking about it, but I were they pass happy to a degree? Yes. Some of the play calling last year was questionable. You struggled. The first down calls were just odd at times. The odd special or the goofball end around plays, it just never worked. The trick plays never really worked, and it got Arkansas off the field a little too quickly. Question is, had they not done these things, how much more, what would the play selection have been beyond that point, right? When you're able to stretch the time of possession out, obviously you're racking up more plays, and in this offense, who knows how much of that would have been more run, more pass option. What would the play calling have been like had they not been? Because you guys remember the first 5 games of the year, it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Their average, I'm sure their average of 3 and outs in the first quarter was top in the SEC. It was ridiculous. And then in the second half, you'd start to see the wheels turn a little bit, and they'd open things up as an offense. So I think we'll see that change. So then that means you're going to have more opportunities to be on the field. You're going to have more personnel changes. And again, I think you will see Ketron Jackson, and I do agree he's going to break the 2 deep. They say he broke out in the special, or the way they talk about his spring game, I don't know. He had a couple of good moments. I don't know that what you saw in the spring made you think, yeah, he's definitely going to crack. He's gonna be phenomenal as a freshman, or anything like that. And again, they're not saying that in the article. I don't know. Again, having been there and then watching it again here at home on the replay, I think he has a really high ceiling. I just don't know what it means with Crawford, with Devion Warren coming back, John David White. If anyone broke out, I thought it was JDW. I thought it was John David White. I thought that guy did more than enough to earn a spot. So is he going to have to battle with John David White to get onto the field? You've got a lot of options. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to be like, I don't know. And then you're talking about where was it? His early playing time where he flashed polish and playmaking ability despite recovering from a knee injury. I think too, if he wasn't recovering from a knee injury and if he wasn't recovering from, pretty sure he had surgery, we might be having a different discussion. And I think he might have had more opportunities during spring because, from what I understand, it did hinder him to some degree during spring camp. Not a lot, not enough that anybody wrote anything about it or that it stood out to anyone. And I don't know that you heard anyone on sports talk radio talking about it, but from what I understand, it did hinder him to a degree, probably more of a nuisance than anything with recovering from the injury. But you wonder if that had a little bit of an impact. And again, from what I understand, it probably did a little bit, but he has a high ceiling. And there's a reason why Texas was all over Ketron Jackson. All right, Raheim Sanders. Raheim Sanders is the other cat they talked about. Now, Raheim is another guy. I kind of wondered, did they put too much weight on him? He doesn't look as fast because, he went from 210 to 222, 223 pounds. That's a lot of weight when you're talking about good muscle, good weight, right? The kind of muscle that's lean and the good fat, as they call it. And when you're talking 10 pounds, that makes a difference. He didn't look like what I had seen on film on his highlight reels in person or even on the replay, but he did have some moments here that I thought, all right, like Raheim could be the real deal. He's going to have to battle AJ Green. I'm a little surprised they don't have AJ Green, but I guess the reason why is because obviously AJ was at home in Oklahoma running track, and meanwhile Raheim Sanders was here. By the way, how much of an impact does that have between these two? Now that Raheim, he was there. He was in it, right, during spring camp. That's how important spring camp is. That's why when you bring in your, let's say, 25 players, your 25 true freshmen, your goal as a coaching staff is to get all 25 of them here during spring camp, right? And Raheim was able to be here. That's an advantage to Raheim. But let's read this, what they say about Raheim. The first thing you should know about Sanders is he goes by Rocket. That's always a good sign for a skilled player, especially when he has proven track speed to go with it. Sanders came to Arkansas as a wide receiver, but quickly switched to running back, where the Razorbacks, who at the time was 6'2", 210, believe the 6'2", 210-pound Florida product can give the offense needed speed element within the framework of a bigger back. Sanders has impressed this spring too. He did have some really good moments, and he had a good spring camp, not just scrimmage, spring camp. But finishing second among all ball carriers a few weeks ago in a scrimmage, 6 carries for 57 yards. Yeah, one of his runs was like 30 yards. He was just bulldozing people. Sam Pittman says, I like Sanders a lot. Rocket Sanders, he's never carried the ball and he's never gotten hit here yet, so we've got to find out there, and we will pretty fast. I like Sanders back there because he's a big back. That's a very physical guy. So yeah, he's now up to 222 pounds, might even be 225. He looks big. They posted a picture of Raheim Sanders right at the beginning of spring camp, and my God, he looked like a defensive end. His arms, 32-inch pythons, brother. those things were. He just looked like a man amongst boys, and that doesn't always mean much. Arkansas's had plenty of guys that looked like Tarzan, but didn't quite. Looked like Tarzan. The saying, played like Jane, right? Or looked like Tarzan, performed like Jane. Can we say that instead? But I think that they should have mentioned AJ Green. They should have talked a little bit more about the rotation at running back and what that's going to look like. But there's no doubt with that weight, even if he was at 210, he's still the biggest back on the field behind Dominic Johnson, right? He's going to be a great change of pace guy. He's dealing with him too. He's dealing with Dominic Johnson. He's dealing with AJ Green, Traylon Smith. The other the other kid, Hammonds, his name, TJ Hammonds. You're dealing with a lot of backs, but he's a different kind of back in that he's going to be. I think he'd be a wonderful change of pace guy. I could see him being on the field and being an impact as a true freshman. I could. He's a different style back than an AJ Green. AJ Green's more of an outside edge runner. AJ, I'm telling you guys, if he comes in, if he's able to, everything that he was accomplished in Oklahoma, if his game translates and comes in and clicks with the offense, and things change up front, we actually get some better run blocking. Third down and short isn't a problem with this offense. If they can continue plays, right, avoid 3 and outs, you're going to see one of these guys play quite a bit. You're going to see either Raheim Sanders or AJ Green, and it's going to be fun to watch. There's not a doubt about that. Let me click back here. Do you think there are any silent commits? So Nico Davalier, is that how you pronounce? I always mess up these kids' last names. Nico, you guys know who I'm talking about, the defensive lineman, highly rated 3-star, who I believe announces at the end of June. I don't know this, but I think he's a silent commit, or he's as close to being a silent commit without being a silent commit. I think he ends up being a hog, but outside of that, not really much. Again, that's Ryan. That's not from anybody that I've talked with, but that's just it's what I've kind of been led to believe, but haven't been told concrete that he's a silent commit. But I do feel like he ends up being a hog. Would love to see Burks, Turner, and Jackson. Yeah, people forget about Turner. Turner also a 6'3" guy who'll be a redshirt freshman. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. I forget about him all the time. Ladybacks playing South Dakota State tomorrow. Oh, okay. Loops is basically a brick wall when he comes in. I don't know what you're talking about. Loops. JD was damn impressive in the spring game. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm old school. First down is a running down period. 2 to 5 every first down every time. A lot of teams hardly do that anymore. Do you think Coach Pitt and some other coaches will take a page from Muss and learn the transfer portal? I get asked this quite a bit, and in fact, it's becoming my most frequently asked question, either in my DMs or in live chats. I don't know. I know they've targeted a couple of guys. They targeted a linebacker whose name and where he's coming from completely, because I haven't looked in a little bit. They have targeted some guys out of the transfer portal. I think it would be wise, and Steve Spurrier did this at South Carolina when he first took that job. He went after JUCO. He went after older, guys they weren't 17, 18, 19. They were 20, 21 JUCO players. He went after older guys that play, especially at the linebacker position, to be the leaders on his defense. And I think his first 2 or 3 years, they had quite a few really solid, sound, maybe not all SEC guys, but guys that contributed to some fashion or another on the field out the gate. Right? Like when they come in, one of the best linebackers that have played at Arkansas in the last decade, Montrell Spate, was a JUCO. Year 1, not so great. Year 2, it was phenomenal. I think you either go JUCO route or yeah, I agree. They need to hit up the transfer portal more. Again, I know they've targeted a few guys. I don't think he's as on it, because here's the thing. Sam Pittman, what's he known to do? What's his bread and butter? He's not a transfer portal guy. He's not a JUCO. I don't know. Someone's going to have to name me. When he was at Arkansas, I don't know that he even targeted a JUCO lineman outside of maybe 1 or 2 guys who were depth chart fillers. I don't know that he did that at Georgia. He's a high school recruiter. That's in his DNA, going after these kids in high school. We'll see what he plans to do with the portal. I personally hope that he goes after the transfer portal linebackers or JUCO. Now maybe he'll go the JUCO route more often, but that wasn't something he was really known to do on the offensive line when he was a recruiter for the offensive line. He didn't go after JUCO guys. Did I say transfer portal earlier? I meant to say JUCO if I did, but I certainly hope that he does. I certainly hope that he targets the transfer portal more often. Also curious if basketball lends itself. Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. Lends itself better to 1-year transfers much more than football. Football is so team and trust based. I agree. You're right. And that's why sometimes I wonder if it takes these JUCO kids. You go back, Rudell Krim, you guys remember him? And also there's a big safety that came in about the same time as Krim did under Bobby Petrino. But it seemed like it took those guys year 2. it took Montreal Spate year 2, and you wonder if that played a role, being on the same page. Eventually, KB will be known as the best offensive mind we've ever had, even over Petrino. Petrino, who, has been a dumpster fire since he left Arkansas, outside of like one really good year at Louisville. And honestly, Petrino didn't have a bad career, a short career at Louisville. It was all the drama in his final season and the fact that they had won like 2 games, and then they fired him. Anyone think Briles may be the head hog of the future? If Arky 56 were here, he would say yes. He would agree with you. I say probably not. I don't know. He's such a name, in college football. Florida State, you talk to those fans, and again, that doesn't mean he's a bad offense coordinator, because Florida State fans are Florida State fans. You got to, they're crazy. They're insane. If you don't win 11, 10 games year 1, you're a bum. Right? Or if you don't immediately, make your offense phenomenal or defense, whatever, you're a bum offensive coordinator or defense coordinator. They think they're God's gift of football. I've known like 5 Florida State fans, and I think I only ever really tolerated one of them. But I can say the same thing about Oklahoma fans. But a lot of those fans were glad that Kendall was gone. And I think Arkansas, it's not a pit stop for him. It's I need to make sure that I maintain, the Briles popularity, the name, that lived up what him and his dad achieved at Baylor and what he has achieved at other schools outside of Florida State. Again, he was only there for a year. I think he's such a name. It's hard for me to see him looking at Arkansas as a legitimate stop to be a head coach one day, like in terms of his name being so big. If he has a good enough career at Arkansas, I could see him bouncing to be an offensive coordinator somewhere bigger, right? Like at maybe Alabama, maybe a bigger name school in the ACC, maybe Texas. Well, I doubt that with their head coach, but maybe he moves on somewhere to a bigger school elsewhere. I have a hard time seeing him coming back. I think this is, again, I don't want to call it a pit stop, but I feel like Arkansas is just a job. I don't think fans often do this thing where they think that anyone who comes through here just, wants to someday be a head coach here if they're a coordinator or whatever. Outside of Mike Anderson and maybe Houston Nutt, I don't know that there are very many names out there of guys who really wanted to come back and take this job. I can remember Barry Switzer talking to Bo Mattingly about this. He told Bo Mattingly right on the air, I had no wants to come be the head coach at Arkansas because of recruiting, because of the disadvantage of recruiting at Arkansas, comparing that to other schools. And that's why he obviously wound up at Oklahoma, because of that, how close they were to a recruiting haven in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and how easy it was to pluck kids out of Texas to bring them to Oklahoma. I think I do the same thing. I do the same thing every time there's some hotshot assistant comes through here. I'm like, they'll come back. We're doing the same thing right now with Tennessee's head baseball coach. Everyone thinks Vitello is going to come back here and be a head coach. Now, that is a different scenario entirely, because Razorback baseball is like up here, right? Who wouldn't want to come here and coach? And I do think Vitello probably could end up being a Razorback head coach after Dave Van Horn. But football, I think it's different because of the recruiting aspect. It is so hard. It just is. And I know that's not popular to say with Hog fans, but that is the reality. It is, unless Little Rock and Northwest Arkansas are producing the kind of talent that they should be producing, and they really haven't been over the last 15 years, it's just not a super attractive job. I mean, you look at Brett Bielema, how his decline. You look at Chad Morris, although from a fan perspective, and I think reality sets in that, wait, Chad was just a bum, didn't know what he was doing. But head coaches probably don't look at it like that. They look at Chad Morris, Brett Bielema, who knows how Sam Pittman's career goes down, and then you combine that with how difficult it is to recruit here. Okay, so you've had coaches not be successful here, and then you've had recruiting is just so difficult. It's so hard. So to me, I think someone like Kendall Briles is going to be eyeing a bigger job. Who knows? Maybe Sam Pittman turns this thing around, and I hope that he does. I think he's capable of doing it. where all of a sudden we're looked at more positively. I mean, look at Houston Nutt. If there is an example of someone who came into a situation that was it was awful, it was just a nightmare. Well, it wasn't as bad as like taking over for Chad Morris, but the Danny Ford era, outside of winning the SEC West 1 year, which was a fluke, by the way. The SEC West was garbage. When was that? 95. And of course Spurrier was doing his thing. Nobody was going to beat Spurrier at Florida in the SEC championship. But like outside of that 1 year, Arkansas football was a disaster. You stumbled into the SEC championship. You got embarrassed. And then Houston Nutt comes in and completely turns the job around, makes it an interesting job, and you're able to lure someone in like Bobby Petrino. Say what you want about him wanting to leave Atlanta. I'll agree he wanted out of that job, but I've also heard Arkansas was not the only school that was knocking on his door. Jeff Long went after him and was able to bring him to Arkansas, and I think a lot of that had to do with what Houston Nutt was able to accomplish in his 10 years here, is he made Arkansas a more legitimate job. So we'll see. I'm saying all that to say that we'll see. Maybe a decade from now, we're going to look back on Pittman's career here and go, wow, he outshined Brett Bielema even at his brightest moments in Arkansas, which were so short-lived. Obviously, it was a better situation, or it's a better job than when Brett Bielema took it over, or when maybe even Petrino took it over from Houston Nutt. That's a possibility. We'll see. I think that's an interesting debate, though. I really do. I think the looking ahead at who could be a coach here is such an interesting topic, because it all has to stem from, or all goes back to, where the job, where it takes itself, or where Brett Bielema, or Sam Pittman is able to take it in a few years. And then you look at what he's done in recruiting in year one, the turnaround you had. I think it's a real fascinating topic, to be honest with you. Kelly Marie says, I'm not saying yes or no, just curious. Yeah, and I agree, and I know you were. It is something that comes up a lot. My dad thinks Kendall's going to come here and retire. It's something Arky56 tells me all the time. He says, yeah, I think Kendall Browse is going to come back and be a head coach here. And my argument would always be, what's your evidence? Because he was a coordinator here? I mean, there's got to be more than that, right? And I think Arkansas has to be a more attractive job. Speaking of them, Norvell made a mistake going there. Oh, yeah, going to Florida State, right? I don't know, man. They're hyping them up this year. In this offense, Traylon Smith, TJ Hammonds can make up for the loss of Woods, catch the ball out of the backfield. Yeah, I agree with that, Sean. Plus, if Kendall Browse succeeds here, it looks even better on his resume, given the state of the program. I don't want Vitello back. You didn't like him and Dave Van Horn getting into it? That was totally on Vitello, by the way. I know we are hot at Tony, but who else would have had the stones to speak his mind to a legend like Dave Van Horn? Look, man, I don't know what that was over. From what I understand, that was over recruiting. That was something about that kid out of the kid committed to them out of Central Arkansas, right? I had heard that it had something to do with him, and Arkansas was still recruiting this guy. He's a power hitter. I think he was a first baseman. And there's some beef about that, and I don't know. Word on the street is LSU head coach is retiring this year, and they're going after Vitello. That is a good fit. They don't care about explosive personalities, right? At least they can understand Vitello. Plus, Tony recruited Copps, too. Copps was a walk-on. Do you know that? I did not know that. I did not know that until earlier this year. I think it was Phil. I caught Phil talking about it on the radio. I did not know he was a walk-on. And he was like, and then I heard he was bugging coaches and stuff. I try to listen to Phil as much as I can on the radio and try to sync it up with the game. I'm never successful in doing that. All right. Rant over with. I thought it was interesting about the two freshman Razorbacks getting some love. Raheim Sanders, Ketron Jackson. I think both of them are definitely capable of making their way onto the field in 2021. As far as breaking out, I don't know. Boy, you got a lot of competition at running back and wide receiver. I wish we were talking about two freshmen. Well, maybe it's a good thing we're not talking about two standout freshmen on the defense, but when you're talking about defensive line and secondary, I think they're going to be in better shape in their secondary. But when you talk about the front seven, outside of Bumper Pool and Morgan, a lot of questions around the front seven. I wish they had gone out and picked up some studs, JUCO or whatever, high school, in the front seven along the defensive line and linebacker. Like guys that we know are clearly going to be good at the position. We have a really good feeling they're going to be sound at the very least. I don't know that they answered a lot of those needs in this most recent recruiting class. I have a hard time seeing any of these freshmen break out along the front seven or anywhere on the defense. But when you're looking at the offense, it's pretty crazy to think that we're discussing two freshmen at positions where Arkansas is the strongest, and we're talking about these two guys could come in and have an immediate presence, maybe even an impact. So is there Borlsworth for baseball, right? Rain delay. Did they hit him with a rain delay? No, did they? Hold up before we log off. Tell me it's not true. Are we going to get a doubleheader tomorrow? Is that what's going on? Yep. Looks like it because they just tweeted delay, but we don't have a time. Yeah, it was delayed. So we do have the batting order. Starting lineup, obviously Webb, Goodhart, Wallace, Slavens, Franklin, Moore, Smith, Opitz, Battles, and then, of course, we know Bolden's going to end up pitching tonight, well, assuming they have a game. So, yeah, it looks like it's delayed. Well, that's a bummer. I'm bummed out now. I just hope that we muster a consistent run game to help KJ and Malik. Yeah, they're going to have to. It all stems from the offensive line, what they do up front. Are they able to get some push up front? So I just realized my Patreon. Nobody corrected this. My Patreon. Here, we'll float it around up top. There we go. There's the Patreon logo. All right, shout out to the Patreon supporters. I need to shrink it. There we go. Put it right there. That looks better. Shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys, there you are right there from last month. Tyler Edmonson, no surprise. Anthony White, Timothy, my man, Whiseant, George Rector, Randall Hunt, Kelly Marie, John Goodman, Mathew Hestand. I swear that's a baseball name. Doug Stubbs, Jenna Mayes, Justin Kipper, John Hawes, and Mark Dodson were the Patreon supporters in the month of April. So shout out to you, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are awesome. All right. Again, shout out to Arizona Tim for the helmet. You know what? Let's just do this. Oh, look at this. I'm just going to do it. Look at that. Look how sexy this is. This is my favorite. It is my favorite helmet that isn't the polished red. It is. It's my favorite. I love the chrome red, man. This is sexy. Kind of makes me want to try it on. I don't want to break it. Got the American flag there. That's so sexy. All right. So, shout out again to Arizona Tim. This is awesome. I will. There's going to be more helmets. I'm going to go out and get them. So, yeah. Oh, hit the likes. What's going on? Get the likes up. Okay. Well, we'll see what's going on with the baseball game. I guess it's under delay. Odds are, I bet it wouldn't shock me at all if they end up having to play a doubleheader tomorrow, but I guess we'll see. I would rather them just play tonight, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm hungering for some baseball tonight, for some Arkansas baseball, and for them to take the series against Florida. All right, well, until next week, or unless there's bigger news until then, or before then, I'll see you guys. Woo pig, go Hogs.